This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari here from the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. We start with Hosana, the male leopard, and he and I are both very apologetic that we are 2 minutes late. We had a few technical glitches, but we're back up and running now, and here we are. So that is Hosana the male leopard, 2.5 years of him, drinking a little bit of water after 2 meals in less than 24 hours. Please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. My name is James Henry, and on camera today we have got Senzo Mkize and his 3 fingers. He does, in fact, have 10 fingers, but he only ever shows you 3 of those. Good. Let's go back to the leopard. Now, in case you would have not been watching, he did kill a duiker here the night before last, and then yesterday, on his way down to drink, a nyala came past here, did something very silly, and just didn't see him basically, and in the middle of the day he caught this nyala calf, and the nyala calf he didn't kill immediately, and so it was rather dreadful to watch him kind of toy with it. Anyway, the nyala calf is sitting up in a tree not far from here, and Hosana I think will be around here for a little while. The other thing that could happen today is that that pack of wild dogs might arrive. Now yesterday 4 adults, 6 babies came onto Djuma from the northern boundary, and with any luck they'll pitch up somewhere around here. Taylor's going out on foot, and she might have a chance of finding them. We'll keep an ear out for alarming, and certainly if they come anywhere near here, Hosana will find himself in a tree very fast. And also worth noting is the fact that there have been so many hyenas around here during the night. Apparently Senzo tells me that the hyena we've seen this morning, his name is Ntima, which of course means black. I forget why we called him Ntima. He's walking towards us now. There he comes. I don't want to move the car and start it because it might startle him. He's just looking at Hosana. It's interesting actually, he seems to be keeping a fairly safe distance from the leopard. And when we found Hosana this morning, Hosana was lying on the ground next to the hyena. And so I suspect that this hyena is possibly not as confident as he might be, and that young Hosana has bested him a little bit. Yeah. Here comes the meese. Let's see what happens here. This is interesting. There's no reason for this hyena to approach the leopard. There's no reason for him to provoke some sort of interaction. There is no meat to be had. The leopard is hissing now. He's deeply dissatisfied to be seeing this meese looking at him. And see how kind of almost shy the hyena looks. Cobalt, we have not seen Tingana of late. We heard a leopard calling way to the north a few nights ago, and I have not heard of Tingana otherwise. We have spent a lot of time here over the last little while with Hosana. I'm surprised Tingana didn't pitch up yesterday. But I don't think this is a bad thing. I hope that, provided he's all right, of course, it does mean that he's either on a kill somewhere, our old Duke, or he's off marking his territory much more widely than he has been for the last little while. And so, either way, unless something dreadful's happened to him, and I don't see why that should be the case, I think it's positive that we haven't seen him for the last little while. Likewise, I'm a little bit surprised that Thandi and Tlalamba haven't pitched up here, because the noise that poor baby Nyala made yesterday was just dreadful. And I can't believe every predator within a 20-mile radius wasn't attracted by the distress wails that it made. Now he's hissing at the hyena. Cindy, yes, he could kill the hyena, in theory. He's big enough and strong enough and fast enough. This hyena is showing almost submissive behavior to the leopard. He's quite young. But the chances of him ever engaging this hyena in a physical battle, very small, unless he was desperate. If he was cornered, then he would. But if he was cornered by this hyena, I think he'd tear him to pieces. He may get injured in the process, but I think that he would do some serious damage. He won't take the risk, though, unless he absolutely has to. And here, it's much easier to just saunter up a tree. Who? Ntima. Justin, you say you don't blame Hosana for hissing at the hyenas, especially after Ribbon bit him. I think Senzo was just saying that Ntima was there as well, right, Sens? When they chased, the two hyenas chased Hosana away with the kill. And so there's probably a bit of resentment. For those of you who didn't see it, Taylor had an unbelievable sighting of two hyenas chasing Hosana with a kill. This is after he'd had a fight with Thandi. And as he leapt up the tree carrying his pilfered meal, he got bitten on the ass by Ribbon, and he dropped the kill. She made off with it, and these two hyenas, I think, fed on it. And then, thankfully, he seemed to be inspired by the slight of being bitten on the bum by a hyena. He killed the duiker, and then shortly thereafter the baby Nyala, because we'd watched him miss a lot of things over the intervening days. And I think that's very interesting. We know that he can hunt, we know that he catches sufficient to eat, and we also know that a lot of leopards kill lots of things, and that they eat them, and they don't kind of they don't, completely lost my train of thought there, sorry. They don't necessarily, sorry, you're right, I've got it again. We know, of course, that they eat a lot, and we don't always see what they eat. And I think that his lack of ability, or not his lack of ability, the number of things we've watched him miss is a function of how difficult it is for all of these predators to catch prey, not any sign of incompetence on his part. And the reason we've seen him miss so many is, of course, because we've spent a lot of time with him over the last little while. I mean, we've spent, I would say, probably 90% of our days we've seen Hosana, and so we've got a really nice insight into how difficult it is to be a leopard, and how difficult it is to be a leopard trying to catch something. Katja, you're wondering why he didn't kill the Nyala quickly yesterday. Katja, they don't. There's an element of play in it. You know, it's dreadful to watch as a human being, but there's definitely an element of play when it comes to something that small. And it's a little bit like a house cat bringing an undead mouse into the house and playing with it in the bath. I know my mother's cat used to do that. And certainly we saw it with the lions during the migration last year. They didn't always kill to eat. They often killed seemingly just to kill. They'd leave 6 or 7 wildebeest carcasses just lying in the grass where they'd killed them. And I think sometimes that the instinct to eat is separate from the instinct to hunt and kill. And while the two are inextricably intertwined, they're not necessarily fueled by the same thing, if you know what I mean. So the drive to hunt and kill is driven by, I don't know, it might be some sort of a sense of entertainment, or some sort of sense of that's what you do. If something turns and runs from you, then you kill it, or you try and kill it, and you enjoy doing that, and then you eat it if you happen to be hungry. But there is no mercy out here. And it's one of the great conflicts of this place, and it's one of the great conflicts of working out here. And it's one of the things that makes working out here so compelling, is that there is no mercy in the wilderness, absolutely none. And yet it can be such a gentle place when everything aligns, when all the variables align correctly. Yesterday we found that female impala with a tiny fetus 3 months from term that had been bitten in half by the wild dog that had killed the impala. There is no mercy there. There was no nice way for that impala to have died, disemboweled as it was. And so that's quite difficult to see, but at the same time we've watched little Scoobert running around here at the waterhole, the little blacksmith lapwing, and absolutely marvelling at his survival and reveling in the enjoyment, or his kind of enjoyment of life and his exploration of life. There's a little duiker who will probably escape Hosanna today. And yet the whole thing with Scoobert is tinged with fear, because Scoobert has a 26% chance of making it to fledging. And so that is the great emotional conflict of the wilderness, which is probably what makes it so very compelling. Let's go across now to the Masai Mara, where I believe Brent Leo Smith, he of the tablecloth, is out and about, and he's found some signal, and I bet he's found some sun, and no doubt some grass.
I am not wearing a tablecloth, Henry, you cretin. Good morning, my name is Brent Leo Smith. I have the big man James on camera with me, and my tablecloth is keeping my camera free of dust. It's not that cold this morning. It's one of the warmer mornings we've had in the Mara, about 15 degrees C, so just over 80 Fahrenheit. And as I said, I challenged James Henry to walk up to a well-armed Masai Morani and tell him he's wearing a tablecloth. I think he might end up on the end of a small sword or bopped on the head. But nevertheless, let's carry on. We're heading down towards the crossings, and whoa! Okay, he's in a rush. We're heading down towards the crossings. Oh, sorry guys. As I said, there's a reason my shuka is over my camera this morning, because the dust is very bad. Okay. We should be able to possibly see, and let's drive a little bit slower, wait for that dust to dissipate. Remember, #SafariLive. If you have any questions for us, I'd love to hear from you. Or you can pop your questions in the YouTube stream if you're watching on YouTube. Oh, it is quite a beautiful morning. The wind is already blowing, so there's absolutely not a cloud in the sky. So I think it's going to be quite warm, quite windy today. I'm hoping that we're going to have some early morning action down by the river. Now, yesterday I noticed that some of the migration had moved almost as far up as Darisha, which is just through this line of trees. And hopefully they're going to be around. I had a brief scar face visual yesterday on my full day. When I say brief, it's because all I could see was a tail and a head lift briefly, and yesterday. So lots of potential around. morning on now. Sneak out in the clan.
Are we live this time? We are live this time. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Mara giving us a little bit of trouble once again. We will hopefully one day be able to fix this problem. There we have Hosanna the leopard. He has not moved. Wild dogs have not come streaming past. Ntima the hyena is still lurking about here, just in front of us. There he is, looking sheepish. There is a little bit of kill left in the tree, and that is why I think both of them are still here. Ntima is obviously a hyena of great hope, because there's so little left that I can't believe there's enough for even a snack for both of them. So one of them's going to have a snack this morning, and I suspect very strongly that it is going to be the little chief. Ribbon, at least Ntima, is quite interestedly looking up. Oh, it's a wildebeest that's coming down here. Paula, no, we don't have any idea where the hyenas are denning. You know, we walk this property pretty flat, and I don't know that there can be a den on Djuma. I really don't think there's a den on Djuma. If there is one, it's maybe a natal den, so not necessarily a den that is a central hyena den. And if there is one, there could be one on the southern boundary. I don't think there is one there. I suspect that there is perhaps a den on Torchwood. Torchwood is the least explored of the reserves around us. And, you know, I've got no reason for saying that other than the hyenas go in there quite a lot. And also we don't go in there much ourselves, and nobody walks there. So it's possible that there's a den there. Now that Misi is looking up towards a wildebeest that has not seen the leopard. And the wildebeest thinking he's going to come down and have his morning coffee here at the waterside. Probably not. Is that hyena there because of something else? Now all of this is taking a long time to go through that wildebeest's mind. And that is why he is standing there looking. Then he can see us, and so he is dealing with three variables that he is trying to kind of fathom. Hyena, us, and reason for idea that there's a leopard here. The leopard is staring at him thinking, are you joking? It's a great shot. Showing no signs of distress. It's quite a dull morning today. There's no sun and there's quite a thick blanket of cloud, which I'm surprised about because, of course, it's supposed to be some 39 degrees today, 108 Fahrenheit odd. Down here because of us, or is that wildebeest not coming down here because there is a leopard looking at him? The great irony of this is that all that wildebeest would have to do to get rid of the leopard would be to run at him, and the leopard would move. There is no question. There is no reason for a wildebeest to fear anything from a leopard the size of Hosanna, in fact of any size. Certainly not from one male hyena. And yet there he stands, perplexed, confused, and unable to come and have his morning coffee here at the water's edge. Hosanna's given up. He doesn't think this is interesting anymore. Hello, Aidan, aged just 7 years. The sun is actually probably coming up as we speak, but we can't see it because of this big cloud that is sitting over the top of us. So the sun comes up here at around about, you know, it's probably not up just yet. It probably comes up just after 6 o'clock, and I think we're probably not quite there yet, are we? No. So let's say in 10 to 15 minutes, Aidan, but I don't think we're going to see it because of this very thick cloud. You can hear the squirrels alarming. They've just woken up, come out of their house and found a leopard lying underneath the house, which is irritating to them. Kalina, yes, gnu's definitely have good eyesight. But whether or not this wildebeest is... No, he's definitely seen the leopard now. The leopard's just sat up straight in front of him. There we go. Now he's alarm calling. He says. Osana showing that he's utterly bored with the alarm call of the wildebeest. Interesting also that he did not alarm call for the hyena. The wildebeest, I mean, not Osana. Right. Let's go and see if he climbs the tree now. The trick is to get him coming out. Say when. Is that fine? Ooh, come on. Wait, Osana, we're leveling the camera. Okay, you can go now. That's very kind of him to do that for us. Not kind of him to go up that side, though. That looks like me trying to climb a tree. Louise says perhaps he's been watching me and taking notes. I hope he hasn't. Lynn, I'm afraid I don't really know how to answer that question. Is the leopard's tail in proportion to its size? Well, you know, oh, here comes another hyena. I don't think there's any way to answer that. You know, a leopard's tail is. Sorry about that. Apparently we had a bit of signal break-up there. Not sure what's going on. There really shouldn't be any signal break-up here. But every so often a cable gets loose or something like that happens. He's now watching the other hyena. Alrighty, let's go across to meet Miss McCurdy. She's on foot, and I hope very much that she will find the wild dogs for us.
But before we even get to the wild dogs, I'd like to introduce you to my herd of a pet, not impala, Inyala. They're here, they've come through, they've had their morning breakfast. I've told them not to eat any of the Panicum maximum grass. They can eat all the other types of grasses this morning. No, I'm only joking. They can't understand a word that I'm saying. But as most of you know, at this time of the year when, well, there hasn't been much rain and there's not a lot of vegetation, the animals come to camp. My name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm on bushwalk. You can guess he's on camera with me. VM, there he is. And then, of course, also Rexon will be walking with us. He's just down there somewhere. He's also excited to see the wild dogs. But I thought it was quite cool. I like the way that these Inyala hang around camp. Now, we've actually had some incredible sightings over the last little while with Inyala on foot. I'm sure you can all agree. We've even encountered those ones near the Balanites tree on Vulture's Nest where the big male walked within just a couple of feet of me, and they don't even care. Now, normally when you see animals like this, and quite close to the lodge, they always watch you. But I feel like with us all moving around camp all the time, they've learned that they don't need to fear humans anymore. And this is a process that does take quite a long time, but you'll find that these Inyala have been living around here for many, many years as well. And they venture further away when there's food available, but at this time of the year, they know that the gardens are all nicely manicured, they get watered, and the succulents are absolutely delicious. There's even one more. So we're just kind of at back of house at the moment, so you can see this is all the equipment that we use also to grade the roads and do any road maintenance. So it's pretty cool how Juma is self-sustaining in that sense, so that all gets left over here. And of course the big fence that to keep Daryl the elephant out. There's another Inyala bull. Let's see. Nah, he's not quite as relaxed as the others, and he'll probably take the scenic way around to join the rest of the crew. Now, Alex, who's sitting inside and is our Russian technical genius, he said it's so unusual to see so many Inyala bulls together and quite tolerant of one another, which is 100% correct. Normally when they all come together like that, it's because there's a female in estrus and they're all trying to compete with one another to obviously have mating rights with her. But then that ends up with them doing that very slow, exaggerated walk where they erect all their hair on their bodies. And that normally is enough to decide the winner with an Inyala. But that's not what's going on at the moment. There are a couple of females here and there. They're actually inside camp. You can't even see them, but they're on the other side. No, actually, look, there's another one. They're everywhere, all the way down there. Another Inyala popping up. That's actually where I used to find the... what was I going to say? The caterpillars, the milkweed caterpillars. No, not the monarch caterpillars. There we go, not the milkweed. They were on something that produced a milky latex. And well, I was just saying to Alex, it's pretty incredible how animals become so much more tolerant of one another. And we were talking about it at Chitwa Dam, how when the water subsides, more and more hippos will start joining on in, and more of the dominant bulls are going to have to take a step back and actually be not as dominant if they want a place to keep nice and cool. So the same thing goes with the Inyalas. They all know that this is the only place where there's a decent amount of food around, so they'll just tolerate one another. And I'm sure they'll have a boxing match here and there, but it is pretty cool to see that relationship between humans and animals, and that they don't have to be frightened of us, which is awesome. So I don't know what we're actually going to do today. I really haven't got a clue. I'm hoping to maybe pick up on some tracks of the wild dogs and see if we can't put James in a direction that they were heading, because I know he'd love to absolutely go and see those wild dog puppies. He hasn't stopped talking about it all morning long. So I better get a move on and head down in that direction. And hopefully in the next little while, when you come back to us, it'll probably be a little bit longer, we'll have some news on the wild dogs.
Well, welcome back. We're down in the area around the Mogoro crossing. I've just noticed a very alert impala, and I'm just trying to see if this impala hasn't spotted a predator somewhere hidden in these croton bushes. There's the impala over there, looking down towards the area we're in. Now, of course, it could be staring at a member of the North Clan. We're quite close to where the den is. And you should be able to hear that of the wildebeest that are quite close to us. No, he's popped his head down. Whatever he was staring at, he's decided is not a threat. So we're going to keep moving, checking along the edge here. So yesterday, Scar was very close to hippo pools. There were a lot of wildebeest and zebra around. My comms are breaking up incredibly. Luke, can you go again? I am getting maybe half out of 5, Louise. Okay. Apparently we're fighting off gremlins this morning. It's amazing. Louise is talking to me via radio from Juma. So it is quite incredible, but unfortunately sometimes, who knows, solar flares, hohos in the air or whatnot can cause some troubles. And unless you look very carefully, you could miss it. Alas, no sign in that bush. I'm going to go check the gardenias down towards Mogoro. Well, I continue my search for a kitty cat this morning. Let's send you back to James, who's got Hosanna close to camp.
Yes, that is Hosanna, and he is awake, relatively alert, and it's always quite funny at this time of the morning, because what happens, of course, is that things start to wake up, and the squirrel woke up and found him lying underneath the nest and started alarm calling. Now the monkeys are waking up and they're starting to shout because there's a leopard nearby. And so he's kind of watching things playing out in front of him. He's had a lonely night with nothing but a hyena to keep him company. And now the animals of the day will shout at him while he sits in this tree. That is a perfect leopard picture. It's very difficult to imagine a better leopard picture. A picture postcard of a leopard in tree. Just turn my game drive radio on. I haven't heard anything going on there. Make sure that I'm not missing a wild dog sighting 2 minutes from here. Atul, yes, there are some differences between African and Indian leopards, but not so that you would notice any huge difference. So they're relatively similar size. They are the same species. They're a slightly different subspecies, but they could definitely interbreed with each other. And, you know, I think you'll find that the more similar the habitat, the more similar the size will be. So in desert areas or areas like the Cape Fold Mountains where leopards occur, they're much smaller than they are here or where they are in India. And in parts of the far east of Russia, you get the Amur leopard there, which is, I think, slightly bigger than the leopards that we have here and in India. There we go. And now he'll finish off his nyala. Suddenly decided that he was hungry. Is that the duiker? Yes, you're absolutely right, Senzo. It is the duiker. Where did the nyala go? Do we know where it went? Oh, okay. We didn't see it yesterday. Yeah, Senzo's right. That is the duiker. Stations, Hosanna is still static, same place. He's just taking a little bit of hair off now. Let's move a little bit forward and see if we can't get a slightly better view of him. Monkeys deeply distressed to have a leopard so close to them. Yes, Mrs. Lapping, absolutely. Monkeys will alarm call for squirrels, and at least and squirrel call for lions. Definitely. Is that right? Monkeys will not alarm call 4 squirrels. No, that's not what you asked, of course. I wonder where the other one is. There's more left than I thought there was on that carcass. We only saw it in the grey dimness of the pre-dawn. Maybe he finished his succulent Nyala calf, his Nyala veal. Wildebeest's still staring at him from a distance, trying to compute the ramifications of going to have his coffee. No, Carol, I think old Hosanna went up the tree because he was thinking about eating, and then he had a bit of a rest, and that other bigger hyena actually came in, and that's probably what inspired him to go up there rather than just lie at the base like he had been doing with Ntima. So that larger, much more dominant hyena came in. Just listening to the radio. They found a carcass near the Galago Pan. Looks like it was killed by dogs, but the dogs haven't been seen. I'm just going to quickly tell them there are hyenas all over the place here. Guys, there are hyenas around the Vuatela Dam, so yeah, I'm not sure they came through here. If you find any tracks, I'll come give you a hand. I wonder if let's sit here a little bit longer and watch Hosanna. Hosanna. It's a little grim watching him. Ooh, oh, I do apologise to sensitive viewers. He's just having his breakfast though. That is just the way of things. Nothing going to waste. Louise is making macabre jokes in my ear, which I shall not share with you. You can see how much duller the light is than normal, and that's simply because, of course, there is no sun. So Aidan, who's watching and wondering about the sun, it's now up, I'm sure. I'm sorry, I lost that question, Louise. The Game Drive radio started going. Oh, would a hyena be aggressive to the leopard? Absolutely they would. Hyena will steal anything it can from a leopard. In fact, it's the only reason that the leopard's got this kill up in the tree. This hyena will steal absolutely everything it can from a leopard. I'm going to suggest that we make a move. We can come back here, but the chances of seeing 6 wild dog puppies are suggesting to me that we should perhaps do a little drive around and see if we can't have a look at them. So while we do that, also on the hunt for the dogs, I think, is Taylor. Let's go and have a look.
I should have done that earlier. I was going to stalk because I was on the hunt, apparently. I don't know what I'm hunting, though, but I am hungry. Let me tell you, I'm going to devour the breakfast table this morning. That's most certainly happening. I've already had to have a handful of nuts. I was so ravenous. And you know that the hangriness in camp is real. So I'm surprised VM didn't bring me a snack and throw it at me at a distance. Anyways, he's now trying to walk backwards. luckily there's not too many trees to sort of step on over here. So we're very undecided as to what we're going to do this morning. Unfortunately, there's very little for me to show you on Bushwalk at the moment. So we just have nice walk and chats. Hey, ask all the questions you'd like to ask. Hashtag SafariLive. So we're deciding on what direction we're going to go into. So we kind of cut through this block at the moment because I know that Aubrey and Jackson are now, and James, I think, is going to join in on the search. I'm trying to find where the wild dogs have gone. So we thought if we cut through here, at least if they go, oh no, they're a little bit further north and west, okay, it's not that far. Or if they go, oh no, they're going that way. Rex is doing this to me now, which means we need to go that way. So that's exactly it. So now we don't have to backtrack too much. It's still quite central and still, you know, can make any changes. Okay, what do you think, Rex? Sandy patch. They saw them running from. Just told me. I literally saw my jaw drop. Gallagher Pan, is that them? Sneaky dogs. The dogs were seen at Gallagher Pan. Race. I think Brent drives quickest to get to wild dogs. I try my best. I can do very well. VM has only almost fallen out of the car about 212 times, so we're going to also head that way. I think it's important that we kind of go in and just help, because that way, if they do cut through a block and then we get to see them, that's going to be amazing. I was really tempted to cover myself in peanut butter this morning and just sit on the floor and wait until the wild dog puppies sniff me out and find me, and then I was hoping that they'd come and lick me. I'm not ever going to do that, so don't worry, but it was a nice idea. The thought did cross my mind. Can you imagine all those puppies playing around you? Yeah, yesterday I was properly oohing and ahhing. It was a very precious sighting. So I'm so glad we got to experience it all with you. And hopefully at some point we'll bump into something. Maybe we'll be lucky enough and we'll find an elephant or another Inyala. Maybe, I don't know. Bushwalks are hard at the moment. They're really, really hard. And I thought the elephants need to get back onto Juma. Oh, no. You just have to come with me and we'll do lots of chatting and walking. So yeah. So I mean, it would be really nice if the big herds of Ellies would come back. Not that there's much for them to eat. They can also come to camp if they like. They're welcome. Although there's some people in camp that always want to chase Daryl out of camp, and he's lovely. He doesn't do anything bad. He's just big and he's got long tusks, and he's not malicious like that. He just really cannot help himself. And Aiden, yes, it is a small camp. Daryl also fine. We all have to fit in. So basically what happens is when we go inside, we open the door and you've got to bend like this, and you've got to go shuffle in this way, and then you back up and you let the next person come through, and then you close the door again, and then you can stand up. It's just the doorways that are small. I'm just joking, Aiden. The camp is actually quite spacious. It's very spacious. There's lots of room for activities. Now I'm just quoting Step Brothers. So yeah, it's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful. Oh yeah, I suppose we do. We do sometimes avoid walking because of danger, but not like in terms of animals and things like that, when it's windy. So we've got gale force winds. I refuse to go out and bushwalk because I think it's particularly dangerous. I also used to not allow my guests to go walking in that kind of weather, because the most important thing when you're out on a bushwalk is, of course, you've got to use your ears, because you can quite easily avoid walking into a herd of buffalo or a herd of elephants, which you don't want to do. You want to know where those animals are and then do an educated approach on them rather than be surprised. Obviously, every now and then you get surprised by animals, but those animals would also be scared because they wouldn't have been able to have heard you coming, which is the biggest problem, actually, of them all. Most of the time, if the animals hear you coming, they'll react and move away. But when you get to the point and yeah, you know, it's windy. Don't walk on windy days. Oh my gosh. Oh, so amazing. Let's very quickly go to James because he's got the wild dog puppies.
Look at the little puppies. We've just found them on the road. Isn't that fantastic? Just beautiful. I can't believe it. It's so long since I've seen baby wild. Listen to them calling, begging each other. Now all of this is sorting out a dominance hierarchy already. They suddenly stopped. I wonder if parents aren't approaching. I don't think the parents can be far from here, and I also don't think that Taylor and Rex can be far behind the parents. I'm just going to move very slightly, angle the car slightly differently. Now, isn't it interesting how these... Oops. I hope that wasn't me. Surely not. They saw us coming. I'm just going to move the... I just wanted to move the car so that we had a slightly different angle. There they are. They're fine. That's very interesting. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I think that they did get a fright from the car. I was just about to say, isn't it fascinating how they don't need time to habituate to the vehicle? Oh, sorry everybody, I believe we're having some major tech issues. We're going to go to Tech Loop, we're going to sit with these dogs, and hopefully we'll be back with you soon. Hello everybody, sorry about that. Look at this. They are charging around in the manner of, well, puppies, aren't they? They're having the best game. And like I say, while this is great to watch, and it's, well, I mean, it's still great to watch regardless, but this is how they sort out who's going to be the alpha. It's right about now that they will decide who will be the big boss one day. And of course, eventually, obviously I can't sex. Look at this, is unbelievable. They've got a stick to play with, those ones at the end. So I was just saying before we went off air, that isn't it amazing? Because while I think they had an idea that there was a den up in the... Oops, that's very interesting dominance behaviour going on there. They had an idea that... Good afternoon and good morning and good evening, Wes. I might have to move the space for another car coming in. No, we don't need to, we're okay. The adults are coming in. I might just have to move. Here they come. Here come the adults. This is unbelievable stuff. Watch this now, everybody. I'm going to have to move slightly, everybody. There are people coming into the sighting, which is, of course, allowed. Now, let's see. Get it to a slightly different area. I hope not. I hope that they're going to do the feeding here. It should be 4 adults. Only 2 have come in so far. Look at this now. They're starting to whine about being hungry, just like all young mammals. Laura, I think these puppies are about 3 months old. There's some feeding going on. Look, regurgitating the food there. They're born in the winter, and I think they've just come out of the den now. And so I would have thought they'd have been born end of June, so July, August, yeah, about 3 months. That's when you'd expect them to come out of the den. I don't know where the other 2 adults are. They often do split up when hunting, just so that everyone can have a nice look. Vehicles here. Hello everyone, my name is James. Camera, we have a chap called Sinzel. He's doing a great job. Okay. And we're just going to let everyone get in and have a look. Here comes another adult now in front of us. Alright, we'll just make a bit of a move here. It is a little bit tight, you see. Happy with having them here at all. Aaron, I think what they're eating is a nyala or an impala. 2 common antelopes from around here. We've got them now. Right. There's one of the adults. You can see blood all over the face. Kayleen, they'll start helping with the hunts, I think, only in about 3 months or so. And so probably when they're about 6 months old. But I mean, this, you must understand, this is a totally priceless sighting. This does not happen all the time. We do not see this every day. It is very, very special to be able to sit here with wild dog puppies. 6 babies and 3 adults now. And the 4th one, Senzel's just spotted now, coming in behind the car. So the pack is intact. He's coming in now from the right-hand side. No, Bobby, they don't. But wild dog puppies do not engage in siblicide at all. They are very, very different from hyenas. In fact, it's difficult to imagine how they could be more different from hyenas in most respects. There's very little similarity with their social interactions, very little similarity with their social structure. Possible to an egalitarian wilderness society. No, Pippin, I don't think there's a den on Juma. I also don't think that there is a den again. These chaps are finished with the den now, so you won't exactly with the sighting. James, no, all adults will regurgitate for the pups. They will regurgitate for each other. There is, I mean, their parents will certainly do it for them. But remember, in a wild dog pack, only the alpha pair breeds, unless it's a massive pack. And often, if the beta female produces pups, the alpha will kill her pups or adopt them. And so, although only one set of adults here is parents, all of them will help to raise the next generation. Magic stuff, this, really. Yes, Lisa, it is absolutely fascinating to see their dynamics. Isn't it amazing? Hear them talking? It just is very, very special. Extremely lucky to be seeing this stuff. Fighting with each other, fighting with each other over food, and of course there'll be a whole lot of begging going on. Those that have already started to be dominant. And you can hear them talking constantly, whining at each other, and the adults looking pretty exhausted in the manner of all parents. Alright, for those of you who have just joined us, we're going to leave you now. You can join us again, hopefully, with some more action over here. If you'd like to keep on watching, please go along to YouTube. Sorry, I'm just distracted by the sight of these wonderful puppies. You can go along to YouTube and you can just go to SafariLive. Just type in SafariLive and you'll find our stream. We're here in the Masai Mara of Kenya. Well, that's not where we are. We're in the Western Kruger, but we are also in the Masai Mara of Kenya. Right, so this wild dog pack sighting of 6 beautiful puppies now at a close. Alrighty, everybody else, here we sit with our dogs, with our puppies. All of them fighting over a bit of regurgitated steak and also having a huge playtime. They're having the best time. Now I'm assuming that they'll probably go off and have a drink at some stage, and hopefully that'll be close down to where we live. And it's so funny, they play like this, they have this tremendous energy, and quite suddenly they'll all just go flop and go to sleep, and for hours they won't move. It's almost impossible to imagine it when you see them behaving like this. No other sound, just the sound of these dogs squeaking and whining at each other, and then the flapping of their bodies against the grass and against the dust. Still bits of meat being regurgitated from one to the other. I'm not sure what you're asking. This is as far as I'm aware, this is the Investec breakaway pack, and they've produced 6 puppies. I bet there were more when the first litter was born this year, but there's 6 left, and so the pack will be augmented. It'll now be 10, probably for the next year or so until the next generation is born, and then you will find that these chaps, if they survive, will start to move off in single-sex groups. I don't think it's entirely impossible that 1 or 2 could stay with their natal packs, the very subdominant ones. Look at this little thing coming close to us. All right, let's go across to Taylor. She's got something very exciting on foot.
Look how cool this is. Where are the hyenas running to now? Now they've just dashed off. Where are you going? They were fine a minute ago. They were just standing, kind of staring at us. I don't think they're really too worried. I reckon this lot come around the camp every now and then, or not, if not our camp, another camp, and are quite familiar with people. But perhaps just because we're standing around and it's light, they don't have the cover of darkness like they normally do. And I'm sure they feel a lot more comfortable at night when people are around. That's when they seem to get most brave. But there's only one reason why they're coming down here, and that's because of Hosana's kills that he stashed everywhere. But we'll watch the hyena, and then once they disappear, I'll show you one of his kills that he's got in a different tree. And he did kill another duiker last night, about an hour after drive. But you wouldn't have seen it on the dam cam. It happened a little bit further up. But how epic is that, to have a hyena on foot? I love bushwalks when we do have things to look at, which is really amazing. Now they're picking up the pace. I think they're going to go and try their luck around to where Hosana is, and we're going to go there as well. That's something that we're most certainly going to do before any of the other vehicles come back, just to have a little look and just to see. Maybe we get an incredible interaction with hyenas and leopard on foot. That'll be a new thing for me. That'll be a brand new sighting. So come have a look here quickly, because we'll walk on down. So Rex is very, as Rexon is, he's very in tune with nature. And as we were walking down here, he said, look, the drag marks. So let's start over here and point it out. You can obviously see the drag mark that's come through here. There's a leopard track just over there. This is all from last night. So you drag the duiker. Here's some blood as well around here. Maybe then hyenas got excited. They heard it. They have been hanging around. So he quickly maybe ran around. Or maybe he didn't run. Maybe at all. Maybe he decided he'll just enjoy himself. There's a lot of fur down here on the floor. I'm actually going to grab a nice chunk. I'm just trying to find a really nice piece of a fur. Look at this. These animals don't get cold. After really looking at that, this is from a young duiker, all this fluff. Now, if they do erect their hair slightly when they are cold, this is the top part, the darker stuff over here, it really helps with them regulating temperature. And it's so soft. I mean, it would surprise me if they get cold quick enough. And duiker do seem to have quite a thick coat in comparison to something like an impala. And then he ran up the tree over here. This is, I shall show you the side that he went up. Okay, you can see the nail marks. See how he's gripped onto the tree? And you can also see the bits of bark on the marula that are also missing. And up he went, where he then took the young duiker up into the tree. Now, if you were watching the dam cam, you may have seen at one point that a female duiker and a youngster came down to have a drink. I'm pretty certain that this is the youngster up here, just dangling. And this is also very typical of leopards to do something like this. They'll sort of store a variety of kills if there's an opportunity to kill many things up in the trees. Whereas when lions do it, and James this morning was talking about lions sort of just killing for sport really and not necessarily eating it, this is where leopards have the advantage, because they can kill on numerous occasions and then at least still keep their kills safe and up in the tree where no other predators can get them. Other than, of course, if a lion were to figure out that there was a kill in the tree or another leopard. But he's not very far. So I think let's move on down. If you are watching the dam cam, I'm sure that you could see all the hyenas running around. But there's no vehicles around here. So I think we might do a little approach from a distance and see what happens. Hyenas are running at the base of the tree. I don't know if Hosanna is up the tree or if he's down on the floor, but we will find out shortly. But very exciting stuff for James, that he got to see those wild dog puppies. Oh, they're so precious. Wonderful. I can't wait to see all the screenshots a little later. Well, we're going to try and get closer to the scene. Let's go back to James and his wonderful pups.
Righty, well, we're on our way with the pups. It looks to me like they're probably going to go north into the reserve to the north of us, so we'll stay with them for a while, and then we might lose them, I'm afraid. They're on a road that is deeply inconvenient for vehicles. Move on. We've just got to make sure that everybody has a chance to see them. Tax is just going to get out of our way for us. There we are. It is amazing how tolerant they are at this age. There we go. And also interesting that they quite like to lie in the open on the road. They don't like to lie in the spiky grass. You can imagine. You see how they lie down so quickly? I suspect quite strongly if they don't go north, they'll be pulled down into the drainage line by Mum and Dad and Auntie and Uncle. Kelly, the average number of puppies in a litter is probably around about average, probably 8, but anything between 6 and 14 can occur. So you wouldn't be surprised to find a pack with 14 puppies. And so that's why I say to you, I think I'm pretty sure that these chaps would have lost at least a few. It's almost never that an entire litter will survive. And of course, just to have them like this at all is so special. They are massively endangered. Their plight is taken up by a lot of NGOs and conservation organisations, but it doesn't seem to be a huge amount of success. I mean, they breed relatively quickly, and yet there are still probably only between 2,500 and 3,000 of them left. And we keep having to say they're Africa's second most endangered carnivore, which makes it sound like their plight is slightly less serious than it is, but you know, the most endangered is the simian wolf, which lives up in the highlands of Ethiopia in a very tiny area. These guys should be widespread all over every natural area, every savanna ecosystem in Africa. These guys should be widespread. And they get wiped out by the predators, they get wiped out by human beings. Yes, what a traffic jam exactly, Sally, in Oregon. It's the most perfect kind of a traffic jam on a Saturday morning. In fact, I think this is the only way to start a Saturday morning, really. You'll hear that there are lots of photographs being taken in the vehicles next to us. I just wish there was a bit of sun on them. Kelly, the gestation of these dogs is about 70 days, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not very long. But you can imagine a wild dog mother trying to carry 14 pups in her belly while still contributing to the hunt and helping the pack to survive. So, 70 days is about the right time. Otherwise it would be impossible for the mother to hunt. And then they go into a termite mound for a long time. Well, for 3 months or so. That gets moved from time to time depending on whether it's discovered or how smelly it becomes. And so they'll probably move their den 3 or 4 times during those 3 months. And then they'll start moving with the pack like they've just done now. Okay, everybody, let's go back up to the Masai Mara. There are some lions there now with the leonine-maned Brent Leo Smith.
Well, hopefully the gremlins are gone. We're with the 3 Mogoro girls who got chased by buffalo off a little carcass, and a male stole the carcass. We couldn't see from the distance which male it was. We think it was Scar, and he's about 400 meters away up in the long grass where we can't get to in the no off-roading zone. But now we're going to try and keep up with the Mogoro girls. You can see the blood on the legs and stuff like that, but they didn't really get much of a meal before the buffalo and the male lion disturbed them. It looks like they are heading further into the non-off-roading zone. Unfortunately, we should be able to just pick them up from here. And I want to move. Fortunately, there are vehicles blocking our movement at the moment. Okay. Let's try. Get further down the road. Now remember, this is 100% live, so occasionally we do get caught by the vehicles, etc. But it looks like they might head for one of their favorite gardenia trees. They do end up sleeping there quite often. And they might even cross into the off-roading zone. You can just see them disappearing there. But we'll try to stick with them for now. There are quite a lot of wildebeest in the direction they're heading. Okay, there we go. We've got a little gap. We're just going to sneak past. Thanks, guys. And it's going to go get right up ahead of them where they're going to pop out. So, unfortunately, sometimes these things happen. In the bush. Sapphire is asking, do lions hunt hyenas? Sometimes, Sapphire, but not generally intentionally. They will kill hyenas because of the competition they pose in an area. But in terms of actually going out and hunting hyenas, I've only really seen one male lion who used to do that regularly. He just hated hyenas. Not sure why, but he had an absolute loathing for hyenas. And he killed 7 hyenas in one night. That was in northern Botswana, and I've never seen another lion like that since, with the great hate of hyenas. Now, there's the oldest Mogoro, one with that little hernia. You can see she's missing the tip to her tail, but as well as the fact that she also has almost all her canines are broken. She is quite old. I'd probably guess her to be about 11, 12 years old. Oh, and Paolo have just seen her. So she's all her major canines, the tips are broken. impala have spotted her. I think they are heading towards one of their favorite gardenias in the non-off-roading area. Let's go have a snooze. The other two girls are in the long grass somewhere. You can hear the impala snorting. Getting quite close to her now. Just come wider a bit there, please, James. You can see how, look at that, the impala running towards, snorting, making sure she knows that they can see her, and they behave like that because they're much quicker than a lion off the mark without being caught. But now, very interesting, if we go all the way to the back end of the impala, look how there's the herds putting themselves between the babies and the lioness. Very, very interesting behavior there. Watching carefully. Now, I was talking about how old the oldest Magoro lioness is. The impala are done. They've now seen off the threat. They're going to get those little ones and move out of here. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to get that there, James, on the back of the screen. And you see, I don't know if you can. Let me just try that. So you can go in a bit tighter. You can see how broken her teeth are. She is quite old. Okay, now from a big tawny cat with broken teeth to your young spotted cat who's about to be in his prime.
Incredible this is. Just up in that tree. Hello, Hosanna. Just going to sneak around VM so I can see what he is saying. How incredible is that, to have a leopard on foot while he devours his breakfast in the tree. I even had to sneeze because my allergies are really bad this morning, and he didn't even look towards us. He really doesn't mind. Just glancing over every now and then to make sure that we're not getting too close to him. We're quite far away. We're probably about 80 meters, maybe about 80 meters or so away from him, and he's all the way up on the tree. You can see that there's quite a bit of distance between us. I mean, if I were to go running at the base of the tree, I'm sure he'd be very upset with me. We would never do anything like that. Also, please don't try anything like that. We've all got experience in walking big five on foot, so all the high-profile animals, leopards, lions, elephants, buffalo, hippo, and you've even got to be careful of things like giraffe, ostrich. All these animals are potentially dangerous to humans, but as long as you have the knowledge and the experience, it is obviously highly advisable not to try something like this at home. I just need to stress that to all of you. And we have been spending quite a bit of time on foot with Hosanna. He's been exposed to people from a very, very young age, so he has a healthy respect for us, like we have a healthy respect for him. But I think he's also realized that we're not out there to harm him, and we kind of don't mean much to him. We don't hunt the same animals that he goes after, and we're also nothing very tasty to eat. We're big, we make a lot of noise, we probably smell really bad to him too, with all the perfumes and soaps that we cover ourselves on. But that's pretty spectacular to see a big cat up in the tree like that, and so relaxed and on foot. This is my second sighting I've now had with Hosanna on foot while he's been eating. Remember the one day, it was actually when I just got back from Kenya the first time, I think it was in March, and I was on bushwalk with Darby and Rexon led us to Hosanna. We managed to find him in the drainage line, and he was munching away on some breakfast, which was quite epic. Now, of course, I'm standing with my back facing Hosanna. I'm not going to actually stand with my back facing him. There's many eyes watching as well, but I also want to just make sure that I keep an eye on him. That's something also very important. You don't ever want to turn your back on animals. So when you get yourself into a situation, or any time that you actually back out of a sighting, oh right, there seems to be another interaction happening with James and the dogs.
Apparently there's some hyenas coming in here, everybody. And the little puppies are going to investigate. They're not running away. I've now got them beautifully behind a bush so you can't see anything. The adults are following them. How's that? Let's just see. They all got up, the little ones, and they grouped together, and then they went after it. So they weren't vaguely cowed by the larger predator coming in here. We'll just give them a second and then we'll move in there after them. Only one adult went in there, or is in there. I'm just going to reverse down the road and see. Yes, Kalina, hyenas will certainly kill the puppies, but one hyena will think twice about coming in at them, and certainly one hyena won't come near 3 or 4 adult dogs. I've watched a big female hyena nearly killed by wild dogs. I don't know how, in fact, in that particular instant they didn't kill the hyena. But they're so fast, and they just sit and nip and bite and yak. And the hyena eventually backed itself into a thorn bush so that its backside was protected. Here we go. Can't see the hyena. So these little pups are moving away from the adults. They're very confident. It's possibly one of the reasons, of course, that so many of them don't make it to adulthood. Yes, Carol, I would say that wild dogs are substantially faster than hyenas. Hyenas are not known for their speed. Look, compared to the human being, they're much faster. But they're not fast compared with wild dogs or cheetahs or leopards. The adults watching, worried. This is fantastic. The little ones now are going behind us. They're investigating, and the parents are kind of allowing them to go off and see what's going on. Only 2 adults coming. Now the little ones are on the road. Look at them, and they're leading this. They're leading this little charge. Here comes another adult now. Oh, no, we're on the hunt now. Something's going on. Unfortunately, this car is the turning circle of the battleship HMS Nimitz. It wasn't HMS, was it? It was USS. Anyway. One adult here. The others now herring off down the road. The puppies are charging down the road. And the 2 adults being forced to follow them. I don't know why this would be happening. Now discipline is being restored. Adult trying desperately now to stop the pups running off down the road and giving them a bit of meat. Yes, this Senzo is absolutely correct. Placating them with a little bit of vomited up meat. Unbelievable stuff. Let's just wait and see what happens here. They're still begging now from each other. I don't know where the 3rd female's gone, or the 3rd adult. It's just behind us somewhere. Yeah, just on the road, in fact, behind us. other ones coming down the road as well. Sorry, Anna-Marie, my earpiece gave out as your question came through. I'm going to ask for it again. Other mammals that regurgitate food for their young. I've seen lions eating each other's vomit, but I don't think that they do that as a method of feeding each other. I don't know if wolves do it. I wonder if wolves don't do the same thing. But I can't think of anything else, no. This is just spectacular. These pups, rather like my nephews, are driving the agenda this morning. The adults thought they were in for a nice sleep after they'd killed. Now, while we were off air, those people who were with us in the sighting told us that one of them had stepped out of her room at the lodge today at Gallagher Camp and watched the adults kill. She couldn't tell me what they killed, but she stepped out of her room today and thought, well, I'll just go and have a look at the pan while I have my morning coffee. Stepped up onto the deck. The wild dogs arrived and they whacked whatever it was that they whacked earlier. I think it was an impala. Lady Starfire, this question I do not know the answer to, but I think it must be around about 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure that they start the weaning at 6 weeks, and round about, I mean now they're definitely weaned completely, but they'll start eating meat very soon. Parents for all the world would just like to go to sleep. And now these little things have gone charging off down the road. Like I say, eventually they will just suddenly get tired and go to sleep. Boom. But for the moment... Yeah, absolutely, Debbie. In Lawndale, it is the nature of wild dogs to be this calm around vehicles. Those pups have got almost no experience of cars, and yet from yesterday when we started seeing them, they have been relaxed around us. They do not see us as a threat. Their parents don't see us as a threat. It takes them very little time to habituate to human presence. And even on foot they'll habituate to human presence very quickly. Now they're trotting off towards an old hyena den. But the puppies are not going with them. There we go. Thank you, Francesca. You say that wolves do regurgitate for their puppies if the kill is far from the den. Now these guys don't have a den anymore, of course, but this regurgitation process will continue until the pups are able to actually help with the hunt. Well, let's move down this little track. Wild dogs, including babies. Distinct lack of...
One of the most... You know what, up here there are not that many vehicles around, and look at this, we're on foot with a young male leopard in a tree, and he doesn't even care about us. He has glanced at us once or twice, but he is so happy. He's got a meal. We're not a threat to him. We're at a decent distance away from him. To me, this is amazing. Like, this is truly spectacular, and I've never ever experienced anything like this in my entire life. So this sighting will be ingrained in me forever. I mean, I will talk about this for years and years and years to come, about that one time that I got to see a leopard in a tree and in clear view as well. Not like if it was summer and the marula tree had all its leaves, we wouldn't really be able to see much at all. We'd have to get right underneath that tree, which of course we would never do. Not even in a vehicle, we wouldn't sit underneath a leopard in a tree. Well, you shouldn't be anyways. But you most certainly wouldn't do that on foot. So everything is in our favor. And I'm really excited for all of you, because over the next couple of months, if we don't get rain, which it's predicted to, that we're not supposed to get a lot of rain, that we might be having another drought again. You all remember what it was like in 2015, 2016. The wildlife was unbelievable. Unfortunately, it does take a toll on the prey species, but that is natural. It's important that we do have droughts like this. It keeps the population numbers down, and it gives the predators an opportunity to thrive as well. Remember, it all goes in turns. That's what wildlife is like. But this is just so special. So special. Ravinda, I'm 100% certain that if I get too close to Hosana, that he will probably growl at me. But I don't even want to. I don't even want to attempt it. You know, like I said, we're lucky. We've got the most perfect view. There's no need to go any closer. I even think that I could walk probably another 50 or 60 meters and be, 30 meters away from him, and I still don't think he would be worried. But just out of principle and ethics, I'm not going to do something like that. There's absolutely no need to put any unnecessary pressure on an animal like that. So, like, this is a really wonderful sighting, and I kind of wish that every guide could experience something like this, because unfortunately to humans, as for example Hosana is. There's only 4 cats I've seen like this: Karula, Shongile, when they were both with us, were this relaxed, Hosana, and then another leopard down in the southwestern corner of the Sabi Sands called Lisbon. And she was a lovely cat. I've spoken to you about her quite often, but she's sadly no longer around. And she's still my ultimate favorite leopard. But Hosana is a very close second. This is an incredible cat. So it's such a special thing to see. I mean, I can just talk about Mvula's mother, Little Bush. And sadly, I heard that she was killed by lions, which was suspected that she was killed by lions a few weeks back. Every single time we went out and we would track that leopard on foot, my goodness, she would rev you. She would stop a few meters away and spit in your face. It was the most terrifying thing. She'd never do anything. Touch wood, no, I suppose that doesn't matter anymore. She had never ever done that. But every time you would go out and you'd track her, the trackers were terrified of her. And I mean, to have a leopard growling and running towards you at full speed, it's a very intimidating experience. To even have an elephant step out and trumpet and shake his head, even though he's just trying to intimidate you, it's a really humbling experience. You feel, I can't tell you how small you feel in the world, because these animals are so much more powerful, and they know that if they want to, they can take you out in a second, but they don't want to. You know, some of the animals, it's like they just want to remind you and put you in your place. And then we just have this incredible relationship with this young male leopard who has grown up with humans his whole life. But the wild dogs are no strangers to being around people and vehicles, and they too are very relaxed, and it seems as though James is having the best morning.
Yes, we are having the best morning. We're sitting around with them. They've just gone down into this riverbed here. And if they go down there, I'm afraid that is going to make it very difficult for us to follow them. Parents look like they're looking for a place to have a snooze. Baby's coming out, although they're heading pretty much straight towards where they made their kill. They're not far from there at all. I keep half expecting Tingana to come exploding out of a bush. Not to grab one, but because he's been discovered on his own kill. All right, let's go a little bit forward. Yeah. Coming parallel with this little drainage line now. Well, giant ravine more than little drainage line. Hi, little guys. Welcome to Juma. Nice to have you here. You should probably hang around. Tell your mum and dad. So cool. Louise says it's so sweet it makes her want to get a puppy. I promise you don't want a puppy that smells like these guys, though. These champs would stink up your house very quickly. I'm just going to quickly talk to Rex. Excuse me, everybody. It's a small loss of temper there. I'm just going. They're now waffling away on the radio. Go. Rex, these animals are now at the old hyena den, coming down towards Gallagher Pan. Alrighty, let's keep going. We can get down here. We will get through here. I'm just going to go around the side. We're going straight back towards where their kill was. I don't know why they didn't do that initially. Oh, no, there's chasing a scrub hare behind us. There goes the hare. The hare is... Surely they won't chase it the whole way. It's just the puppies that have given chase. One of the adults is still going. The hare is so long gone. All I saw was a flash of white behind us as the hare took off. And now, as so often happens with these things, they've changed direction and they're not going to where we thought they were going to go. Let's move through there. This is the old hyena den, everybody, where we used to have wonderful sightings of the Juma clan. There we go. Now they're feeding again. Chester, yeah, I was just explaining a little bit earlier that only the alpha female will have pups, and if the beta does have pups, the alpha will either kill the pups or adopt them. And I suppose the reason for that is that it just allows, or it just means that all of the resources of the adults can be put towards helping one generation, as opposed to, you know, them spreading themselves too thin. There's more delicious regurgitated meat, now with a covering of spicy dust on it. Very nice to be eating spice dust meat, regurgitated, twice digested. Going to a restaurant and ordering once digested dust meat. Delicious. Oh, discipline being affected there. That's probably the alpha female. That poor scrub hare couldn't believe its bad luck. Suddenly there were 11 wild dogs on it. 10, sorry, I can't count. And now they've turned around again. That's also entirely common. Oops, a daisy's a small tree, roughly the size of a, I don't know, a big thing. You certainly don't get cold in a leopard sighting, at least in a wild dog sighting. Right, Brent Leo Smith has managed to find signal for the next 2 minutes, so let's go across to him. I've no doubt he'll be back with us in, well, probably about 20 seconds.
Well, we're not sure what's going on to all the gremlins. We're still with the Mogoro girls. There's 2 of them in that long patch of grass, and all we can see is ears at the moment. So, oh dear. I'm going to move from here. There's tractors and cars and whatnot. It's a busy spot. So I think I'm going to head down towards the main crossings, see what's happening there. Oh yes, the car that just drove past, I suddenly realized there was a lion right next to them. Okay, I'm out of here. Okay. Now there are quite a lot of wildebeest around, and we're going to be out for most of the day again today, so I think once the breakfast rush back to the camps happens, I'm going to come back to this spot. Now the reason I want to come back to sit with these lions during the day is less than 200 meters from them is a big group of wildies. Let's have a quick look. There we go. So there's a chance they might move towards that area a little later. So I'm just going to do a quick scan around the main crossing points, and then we'll head back to the lions. Plenty breakfast around. Now let's keep moving. Now what they have done is they as I said, they already killed this morning, but one of the males, we couldn't see who it was. I don't think it was Scar. It could have been Scar. It was really far away. It's a couple of 100 meters from the road. After being chased by buffalo, he went and picked up the carcass and disappeared into the long grass up towards the hills there. So some of the ladies are still hungry, and it also looked like a very small wildebeest. So we'll definitely come back to see what happens here a little later. But still plenty migration movement in the Mara Triangle at the moment. Now, there's always a chance we might see a crossing, but these crossings have been quite slow over the last little while. So, who knows? Maybe today is the day. Wind is pumping. And it's been blowing all morning. As you can see, there's no clouds, almost zero clouds around. Chris is wondering, why is there no male lion with those females? Well, Chris, there was earlier this morning. However, one of the greatest misconceptions that is perpetrated by, well, I suppose you can blame Disney mostly and the Lion King, is that there's always a male lion with females. That is often not the case. So what happens is a coalition of male lions, so there are 4 male lions that are in this area, and they have multiple prides. So they will move between the different prides, and will also spend quite a bit of time alone patrolling, making sure that no other males come into the area. So it is not unusual to see a pride of lions without a male. Now, female prides will defend their territories against other prides of females just as aggressively as males will defend against other males. Okay, so it doesn't look like anything happening here at Cul-de-sac Crossing. So we'll keep moving on towards main north and south. am a little bit jealous this morning because, of course, James Henry is playing around with my favorite animal.
I'm not sure how long we're going to have Brent Leo Smith's favourite animal and my favourite animal. They are heading up into a very difficult gully. I have no idea why they're heading up there. They suddenly became excited and started moving up there. Let's just keep looking. There's one adult still here. There's another one going now. Okay, let's move back and see if we can't get another view. Alrighty. I nearly broke this car this morning by reversing into a heavy leadwood log. And then I said sarcastically to Paulie and Senzo, who are both on the back of the car, I said, thanks for your help, guys. Now there's a lot of whistling and clapping from Paulie every time I get close to a bush that I'm reversing towards. Rima, these wild dogs will feed twice a day. It's amazing. They will, I mean, if they have to, I mean, they can go, I guess, a day or two without food, but they will very, very seldom not eat twice a day. So they'll go to sleep fairly soon. They'll have about 6 hours of rest, 6 to 8 hours of rest, and then they'll get up and they'll go again at sundown. Adults will kill, go back to the puppies, feed them. It will be their rhythm, well, forever, basically. Now they've cut down through this gully now, and we will not be able to find them unless they come up this side. Just go around. There's a hyena that has obviously been put to flight by the sight of 10 wild dogs heading towards it. I'm not going to show you the hyena. Let's just keep going and see if we can find the hounds. I don't think you haven't seen them. Oh, I thought that was the sound of something being killed, but in actual fact it was the sound of, I think, his car hitting a scrapey branch. Alrighty, let's go back to Taylor while we try and find where the hounds have gone.
Well, good luck, James. I know how difficult it is when the dogs give you the slip. But we have some Impala who I think are on high alert. They have got their ears pricked and are looking towards us as we've just been chatting away about how amazing the wildlife has been over the last little while. But also, the is something that we need to acknowledge and also, I suppose, keep watching us. I mean, the dogs could pop out at any minute. We're not trying to find the dogs on foot, though. Obviously, the vehicles have got that under control. We're actually trying to avoid all the animals. And it doesn't seem to be working, though, because now we've got the Impala. We're not far from where all the commotion was happening. Gallagher Pan is just down over here. Hosana's down that way. Starting to hear the odd squirrel and things chirping every now and then. Who knows what's going to come from the west? Maybe Hukamuri comes back. Maybe the Nkuhumas come strolling on in. I don't think that that's going to happen. I actually don't know where the Nkuhuma lions are. I haven't got a clue where they've gone. They obviously popped onto Djuma a few days ago, did a little loop around. We think that they ate a wildebeest or something along those lines, and then went back, chased Hukamuri off a kill, and I don't know, Hukamuri hasn't been seen either, but we know he's on Djuma because the guards followed him to a point where they couldn't traverse anymore, but they watched him walk into Djuma safely. So he could just be around here too. Perhaps he's just laying low. He's sick of the lions and the spotlight and limelight, so maybe he's just come for a holiday. So we'll keep checking around in the west to see if he eventually comes back this way. I had to run back to camp, must tell you, because I've sneezed about 800 times today. And my allergies are so bad, my eyes are so itchy as well. So, oh, VM, there's a spider, a little one. And you see, I think I might have to give you some cell phone light. Hang on. There's a baboon spider burrow. But, oh, can I light? Is that better? Or not really? I'm just trying to think. Me come from this side. Sorry. Where? Oh, there's VM. Okay, now I can see the camera. I'm just trying to light it up. So that's my phone.
That's a bit bad.
No. There's too many shadows casting off of the camera. But anyway, there is a little spider in there. Hydrated the way that it was moving so slowly. It's going quite far down into the burrow now. It's very difficult to see it. But I don't think it's that spider is the spider that has actually, now I need to turn the light off of the phone, has actually created that. That is a massive baboon spider burrow. I mean, let me show you a comparison to the size of my hand. That is huge. Baboon spider actually make a burrow. Have you watched one? It's like they just appear in the ground. One minute they're not there, and the next minute they're there. So I'd imagine that they'd be using their legs unless mites to come and do the work for them. I'm talking nonsense now, Tim. And then they line it with silk as well. And that's why they say that you shouldn't theoretically pull spiders out, because it's a burrow takes quite a bit of work to make something like that. Of course, it's a spider, and the ground is not necessarily soft in all the places, although I'm sure they look for a site where the sand is easy to sift around. They're not like warthogs that have got hard sort of cartilage on their noses that they can use to shovel sand out and things like that. They're not like an aardvark with big claws to burrow down, scoop up. But I don't even know how long it would take for one to construct a burrow, but I don't think it's a quick process. I think it takes a very, very long time, probably a couple of weeks. So that's why I personally won't ever fish a spider out of its burrow. I don't want to disturb it to the point where it's too scared to go back and live in that same hole again. And then it has to go and try and create another one. I've heard rumors, I don't know how true this is, but I've had many guides tell me in the southern Sabi Sands that baboon spiders only make 2 burrows in their life. I don't know how true that is. I've also never really read anything about it in any books that I have read on the baboon spiders. So take that with a pinch of salt, because again, might be a little guide's tale, which there are plenty of. As a guide, you kind of have to try and sift through the fact and the fiction. Okay, that says a road. Let's see if there's any tracks or anything around. No, everyone has been driving up and down here, so this morning's newspaper is yesterday's news with the amount of cars that have come up and down here. Rex, what do you think we should do? Go around. Erickson says he thinks we should just walk along the road for a little bit, then we'll probably take an animal pathway and cut off to the north, and then loop all the way around to the west, and then back home in time for breakfast. Well, that's the idea behind it anyways. But this is awesome. Louise, what is the time? Do you have is the time right on your? Half past. Louise, it's too early to play the breakfast game, I'm afraid. Can't be playing the breakfast game an hour before the drive has even ended. You're only allowed to talk about breakfast. This is the unofficial rule in camp, 30 minutes before drive ends. So otherwise people start to get too hungry, then they get antsy. Did you say 25 minutes now? What is the time? Is it not 7:30? So we've still got an hour. So it was 25 minutes. Well then, Louise, you can't ask to play the breakfast game if you know the rules. She's trying to catch me out and get me into trouble. You all saw that, right? VM heard it. You just have to believe what I'm saying. So no, we won't be playing that yet. I also actually haven't got a clue. But maybe as you start to get hungry, I know what I'm having for breakfast. I'm going to have fruit and yogurt. All the berries, because his shopping day was just on Wednesday. So there's gooseberries and strawberries. I'm going to get the frozen raspberries. Oh, I want lentils. Louise is right. Okay, so I do want lentils. I'll tell you very quickly. before I send you to Brent. So what I've been craving is lentils with, are you ready? Because that's all I ate in the Mara was lentils. Chopped tomatoes. I would use cherry tomatoes if I was at home, so the small round ones. But I would chop tomatoes up finely. Lots of red onions as well, and a whole lot of garlic. Pop it into a pan, fry it up for quite some time, so reduce it, add some balsamic vinegar, and then cream. And then again, just let that reduce, let that simmer, and then once you've prepared the lentils, add them in at the last minute. Salt and pepper to taste. I mean, that is what I'm ravenous about. I don't know why I have such a craving for lentils. It's bizarre, considering all the wonderful things we can eat here in South Africa. But that is what I need. And on that happy note, while you all, well, salivate at the thought of my lentil dish, I'm going to send you to Brent, who's finally made his way down to the Great Mara River.
Well, we are near Dusty Crossing, and there's a herd of wildebeest grazing around. They don't look like they've got too much intent on heading down to the river just yet, but there is potential for later in the day. And as we look around, there could be Paradise Pride lines around here in the thickets, so I'm just keeping a close look. And up on the opposite side of the river, on the ridge, we keep going to the right a bit. Yep, there, and we zoom past those big trees to the right a bit more. There we go. Oh, back. There we go. There's quite a lot of zebra building up on top of the ridge on the other side, so they might make their way down towards the crossings as well. So there is definite potential around this area for the morning and for the day. So I think James and I are going to be working this area this morning. Now, I haven't actually seen a single crossing or even heard of a single crossing at Dusty this year. And normally this is one of the busier crossings. And the resident crocodiles are probably a bit hungry. And I don't see any particularly big ones, just a couple of small ones on the other side. Basking in the nice morning light. As I said, it's going to get quite warm today, I think. Warm and windy. And as always, having a quick scout for the Paradise Pride on either bank of the river. Max is wondering, how are the musketeer lions doing? They're old, they're looking old, and as old male lions tend to do, lots of limps, nicks and scars, but they're doing fine for now. There is quite a lot of potential competition coming in from younger males. There's a lot of young males that have come in with the migration, so it's going to be very interesting to see. I just heard from a friend of mine that he saw a group of 6 young males around 3.5 years old, but well down south in the triangle. But they all seem to be heading up to the north. We've got those 2 young males, the one who's got the bobcat tail, the short tail, and and I don't even know what's happening on the other side in terms of the male lions. I know the Bilashaka coalition of 6 has taken over the Ridge Pride, and possibly the Mara River Pride as well, but the Mara River Pride, I think, to try and get away from the Bilashakas, has been pushing further into Olololo territory. So lion dynamics this year have been very interesting, and they'll continue to be interesting until everything settles down again. Now, it's not uncommon to have serious times of turmoil in lion populations, and especially when you've got males like the musketeers that are getting quite old. Also, the Serena males are also getting quite old now, so there's potential for the younger males to come take over and cause a bit of havoc. Now, it's always quite a difficult time for the female pride, especially those who've got any youngsters under sort of 2-3 years old, because if given the opportunity, the new coalitions of males will sometimes massacre all the sub-adults and cubs. No, I thought I saw something. I did not. I'm hoping now that the breakfast rush back to camp has begun. So I'm going to try and head back towards the Mogoro lionesses to see if those wildebeest have edged a bit closer. In the meantime, let's go back to Commander Bob.
Leo Smith, of course, this is the most incredible creature in the African wild. And it is the wild dog. This time they seem to have settled. And in fact, they have become totally exhausted. You can see that. I told you they would become exhausted. Apart from the odd few who refuse to go to sleep. There are always the few in the dormitory, you know, who just cannot get themselves to lie down and go to sleep. That's what's going on here. Come on, chaps. Well, there's at least one male. That little one who just got up is a male. I think the one going back towards the rest of the pack is a female. She doesn't like the male. She thinks he's offensive. Now, we've just had a question from somebody with an astonishing Twitter name. It's not the most astonishing one, but it's an interesting one. Combat Wombat. Combat Wombat? A nice question from you. Oh, bless you, Senzo. About whether or not these animals already have a dominance hierarchy. And the answer is yes, they do absolutely. There is already a dominance hierarchy here, and it will be affirmed and reaffirmed, and possibly there'll be odd changes in its position over the next few months, but it begins almost at birth. Combat Wombat. Isn't that too sweet for words? Cindy, they do share quite equally, but you will find that more dominant dogs probably do eat a bit more than others. Interestingly, with dominance hierarchies and with dominance in general, you'll find that lower ranking individuals tend to have higher stress rates because they don't eat as much, because they are constantly under some form of mild threat from everyone else in the pack. I don't think that that applies necessarily to wild dogs. It most certainly applies to things like hyenas and baboons, but I'm not sure that it applies to wild dogs. And I think that's because they live in a much more egalitarian society. That's very sweet. Now we're eating a little bit of grass. Why not? Why not eat a little bit of grass if you can? That's just wonderful. Isn't that sweet? Makes you understand why, of course, puppies are the ways to a human being's heart. If you want to soften up a human being, give them a puppy. We gave my father a puppy a little while back, Fenton. He swore blind he did not want another dog. Please don't get me a dog. Well, as soon as little Fenton arrived, he could do nothing but acquiesce and admit finally that he did actually want a dog. Thankfully, Fenton's probably slightly less of a handful than these wild dogs. Not much, mind. Lichen depends entirely on how you describe success and how you define success. So, in theory, yes, their hunting success is high. Again, depending on how you describe it. So the latest research shows that they miss a huge amount, as do all predators, as we've watched with Hosanna. And what they seem to be able to do better than most predators is spend much less time on unsuccessful hunts. And so they realize very quickly if a hunt is going to be unsuccessful, and they abandon it, and then they'll go after something else. Once they've seriously locked onto something, then their success rate is probably higher than any other predators. But we used to say things like they had a 70% hit rate. The latest research shows that that is absolutely not true, that they will give up most of the time, and that if you were to count everything that they show interest in and then give vague chase to, the success rate is probably around about 3 out of 10, which is relatively similar to what it would be for something like a leopard. But again, you know, if you think about it carefully, the amount of research brought to bear on these cats and these dogs means that for you to get a really accurate representation of how effective leopards are at hunting, and I say leopards as in leopards in general, you've got to have a representative sample of leopards in a particular area. So and then you'd have to watch them for 24 hours a day. So we'd have to watch Hosanna and hopefully another 10 or 12 leopards in this area for 24 hours a day for a period of, say, 6 weeks. And then we'd have a really nice picture of how effectively they hunt. Is there a difference between sexes? Is there a difference between individuals? Is there a difference between ages? Is there a difference between, whether they hunt in the day or the night? And then you'd be able to say, well, on balance, a leopard catches every 2 out of 10 times it chases something. But I think that you'll find that there is very little research being brought to bear that could give you anything like that kind of detail, because it's just very difficult. And so what you'll find is that some PhD researcher will follow a leopard or 2 or 3 leopards, or they'll sit with a leopard for 3 hours, and during that 3-hour period he'll assess how successful it is at hunting, and then hopefully do the same again at another time of the day, and eventually you'll get into kind of extrapolation of what looks like to be a likely hunting plan or hunting success rate. And the same with the dogs. So all of these things are estimates, and they don't take into account absolutely everything. So for example, would we consider it a fail if Hosanna got up, took 2 steps towards a squirrel, showed interest definitely, and then when the squirrel saw him he didn't bother? Would that be a fail? Still the hyenas sloping around here. There's one now moving up the other side of the riverbed. We won't sit with the camera, I just spotted it in my peripheral vision. Excuse the frog in my throat. Well, Delsurf, what is social knowledge? Are they more social than most other species? Yes, they are. Are they more social than hyenas? Well, what's social? Do they live in a more tightly bonded group? Yes, probably. Is their social structure more complicated? No, it's not. Hyenas have one of the most complicated social structures, other than for animals like baboons, other than the primates. And that means that they are apparently imbued with a problem-solving ability that most animals that don't live in a social structure like that are not. So these dogs have a very defined social structure with the alpha female and alpha male. And then there's very little competition. So they're not constantly trying to find themselves and balance themselves in a hierarchy. Yes, there is a hierarchy from alpha down to omega, and it can be fairly violently enforced, but I've never had the impression that it was anything like as stringently enforced as it is with the hyena clan. You'll never see a group of hyenas this big lying this close to each other, or very seldom. And of course these guys will do this every single day. So although there's a hierarchy, it's obviously not quite as rigorously enforced, and perhaps the gaps between members in the hierarchy aren't quite as large as they are in a hyena clan. The sort of hierarchy question and the question of social standing and the effect that it has on lower ranking members of society is very nicely illustrated in baboons. And that chap who I've often referenced, Robert Sapolsky, who's I think he's still in New York, a New York biologist and physiologist and endocrinologist, did a lot of his early work on baboons in the Masai Mara. And what they used to do is follow a troop, and they'd dart various members of the troop, take them into camp quickly, and take a lot of blood out of them. Not a lot of blood, but enough to check all their hormone levels, and then quickly take them back to the troop. Seemed to have no deleterious effects, and he did this over the course of many, many years. And a lot of the research that he did showed that there was an extreme stress felt by lower ranking members because they were under physical threat all the time, and they had this threat of not eating. Something has just made a distress call quite close to Gallagher Pan. Now, Taylor and Rexon are quite close by there, so it'll be interesting to hear if they've got something. Anyway, I think that you'll find that that level of stress, as I said earlier, and that level of hormonal difference probably doesn't exist in a wild dog. They are that much closer together. Let's go back to Taylor now and find out if she did hear anything.
Well, James, it's funny that you say that, because we were sort of walking. Remember I said to you we were going to go north and come back around to the west. Our plans changed shortly after, because Rexon heard something while we were live. He did say like a distress call or alarm calls or something. He couldn't quite put his finger on it at Gallagher Pan. Gallagher Pan is just over here, maybe about 100 meters away or so, and we've just come from there and there was no sun. We thought that maybe when we were just discussing with one another, maybe it was wild dog hyena interaction. And then what we did find, what VM was showing you in the beginning, is, remember James was talking about a carcass that was found and that he didn't know who'd killed it. Turns out it was the wild dogs, but then the hyena, and it goes all the way off of the road. And then they obviously gobbled it up. I'm trying to find if there's actually any remains, even a shard of bone or anything around here, but there doesn't seem to be anything at all. Not surprising from a hyena, especially if it was a small antelope species. They would have gobbled the whole thing up, every last bone. Oh, Rexon's, hang on. So Rex always jumps up ahead and has a little look around, which is so handy on bushwalks, because obviously we get fixated on one other thing. So he's just basically done a signal. I wonder if there's not some remains here. Let's have a look. There we go. Look at all the blood on the ground. Goodness, we're playing CSI today. That's crazy. So, oh, I don't like the smell of blood. That's what I've realized. I'm running away now. I took a deep breath in and went, and then went, nope, I don't like from what's left here. But they've obviously devoured it. Blood is so red, I don't even know what that is. There's another little piece of something there. So they're obviously fighting over it and finished it off here. But again, not a shard of bone, not... Oh, I'm walking through it and I'm probably going to be covered in blood now. This doesn't look as fresh. You can see this is some of the stomach content there. You can see some of the partially digested vegetation. But they obviously were playing tug of war with it. Here we go, look. As we go. Maybe we can try and figure out what it is from what it was eating. See? Okay, so let's have a look at this piece over here. There's actually a hyena track in the stomach contents. And you see that. There's little leaves, there's grass, so it's obviously a mixed feeder. So something like maybe an impala, maybe an inyala, because we know there's lots of inyala around here. But a bit difficult to say what it could potentially be, all those animal species all around here. But this entire area is a crime scene. Crazy. Well, this must have been from where the wild dogs initially caught it, and then the hyenas were obviously fighting over the left of it, because James did say there's a room right here that the guests at Gallagher watch the wild dogs kill something. So the wild dogs obviously started off. Hyenas heard what was happening, ran on in with the young puppies around. If the puppies were nearby, you'd probably find that the dogs just moved off. But very cool to see. Very cool. Imagine sitting there. How amazing that is for the start of your morning. You wouldn't expect to come out and have a cup of coffee on the deck and to watch wild dogs tearing into some animal. I don't know what it was. Anyways, off you go back across to Brent, who has navigated the people movers and has now found himself some sleepy cats, and hopefully they won't be disturbed.
We are back with the Mogorals, and you can see they are very, very flat in the grass, but at least we can actually see them. If they had been a meter or so further, we would have no visual whatsoever. So we're going to sit here, I think, for the next couple of hours, see if they decide to wake up and head towards the wildebeest, or the wildebeest come down towards them. It's going to be a game of patience. Now, of course, they might just move off to one of their favorite gardenias. I think the others are already under that gardenia over there, that one there. Let's just have a quick look with the camera, and we can zoom into the shade of the gardenia. The grass is quite long around there, so let's just go lower, right down to the bottom, see if we can spot anything there. Sometimes all you see is a flick of a tail, but there could be lions there. I'm actually certain there is at least one somewhere under the shade of that gardenia. There were two around here earlier, but I can only see one at the moment. So move forward a little bit, see if we can spot into the grass a bit. See if we can spot the other one. Linda says the lioness is like a giant slug lying in the grass. Well, Linda, lions are very good at sleeping, and they sleep 20 plus hours a day on average. I can't see the other two, but I know they're around here. This grass is exceedingly long, though, close to the river here. It's because it gets flooded quite often. It becomes a marshland. You can see here we're in the Mogoro Laga. So turn around. Unfortunately, I'm still having problems with my comms. Can you go again, please, Lee? Now, the wildies are not too far off. Carol 6 says I need to get the lawnmower out. Well, yes. Oh, no, heads up. So nice. Maybe just checking on the wildies that we're heading in this direction. So there we go. Her head is up, and unfortunately she is lying next to the main road, so there's quite a bit of traffic around us. I thought we had beaten the breakfast rush. I think these guys are on their way back to camp for breakfast. So this is one of the younger Mogoro females. old girl with the broken canines, the missing tip to the tail and the hernia, is one of the ones that I'm certain is sleeping underneath the gardenia tree. Chris is asking how large is the pride that these ladies come from. It's a small pride. It's only 3 lionesses. They probably split from a larger pride before we arrived in the Mara. I would guess possibly Paradise Pride, just judging from the area they're in, but we only ever really see these 6 lionesses together. And Flop. Flop Flat Cat. And you can see those trees in the background. It's actually the other bank of the Mara River. So we are quite close to the river itself. Sharon is wondering what is my closest encounter with lions. Sharon, I've had thousands of close encounters of lions. I can't really think of the closest per se. I mean, I've been charged on foot quite a few times with the lion stopping at under 5 meters. I've been in an underground hide with the lions coming right outside the hide while I was taking photographs in the hide. So I've had thousands of close. I mean, we have close encounters with lions on a daily basis in the vehicles. And I mean, we've had the sausage tree pride actually bite the side of the car before when they were bored and lick the tires. So we've had lots and lots of close encounters with lions. Keeping an eye on the wildebeest, and that's why we're keeping an eye on her. And the wildebeest might move down towards where she is to have a drink in the Little Magora River. So maybe not a bad. The other 2 females, I think, are underneath that gardenia tree. I'm just getting alien gobbledygook. Something like that is what I can hear at the moment. Okay, I heard James, so I assume linking to James.
Right, I'm afraid, unfortunately, we have got some major technical glitches that end. Hopefully they'll be fixed at some stage. We are now still with wild dogs. The reason you hear me giggling is that behind me I have Senzel practicing a bit of traditional medicine on himself. He has detached a stick from a tree somewhere close by. He's wrapped a bit of tissue around it and he's now cleaning out the ear in which the earpiece goes. Now, I don't blame him for doing this because I've got to tell you, after a couple of months of having an earpiece in your ear, moved at all. 1 or 2 of them have kind of sat up like that one's doing. Otherwise, they've been very still. And mercifully, this cloud has lasted, which is fantastic because I'm hoping, therefore, that this supposedly 39-degree day that we were going to have is going to not be a 39-degree day, but will stay away and remain very pleasant. We'll see. A lovely temperature, very little breeze, shade from above. Obviously for photography the light is not the best, but that's okay. See these 6 fat little puppies. I'd love to know how many they had to start with and how many they lost. there's a massive attrition rate. You can rest assured that they've probably lost roughly half of the litter. Let's hope not, did you say? Jake, yes, wild dogs, painted dogs, Cape hunting dogs, painted wolves, they're all the same thing. They are Africa's social hunting canid, Africa's wolf, if you like. Nothing else is related to them very closely. They are less closely related to domestic dogs than wolves are, well, obviously, because all domestic dogs come from wolves. No domestic dog comes from these things. These things were never domesticated. And I don't know that anyone ever really tried. In fact, I don't know that there was an indigenous African animal that was ever domesticated. Cattle that live in Africa now, many, many eons ago, of course, came from the Middle East. Much easier to domesticate the auroch, which is what cattle were, than a buffalo. Buffalo, of course, would result in many deaths of the domesticators. And Louise just asking about cheetah, as I blow out my earpiece again. Lou, cheetah extended, of course, into Asia, and Genghis Khan had a stable full of them. I don't know of any. The Egyptians may have kept cheetah from time to time, but south of the Sahara, no, I don't think cheetah were ever domesticated. There wasn't ever a real need for it. People lived very different lives here, and domestication came with the advent of agriculture. And agriculture came with the realization that we could domesticate plants that had large enough seeds, and there are no African plants south of the Sahara that have seeds worth domesticating, except for teff, which occurs in Ethiopia. But even that, a very small seed. And so the wild dog remained wild and never became the domestic dog. Now imagine today you suggested that you were going to start a domestication program where you were going to domesticate wild dogs, you were going to raise them in captivity, breed them selectively so that they were domestic, breed them selectively for their docile natures, so those that were least likely to bite you or run away, you would breed with others who were likely to do the same, which is exactly how the wolf was domesticated into the common dog. And you would find that there would be a lot of people who would be scandalized at such a suggestion. But the same people would probably own dogs themselves. And so interestingly, of course, that is precisely what happened when the wolf was domesticated, I think in North America, many, many thousands of years ago. It's exactly what happened. Wild ones were pulled out of the wild, kept in captivity, and selectively bred for their docile natures. And eventually we have everything from the Irish wolfhound down to the lamentable Chihuahua. I'm not suggesting we try and do the same thing here. Of course, there was a domestic animal from Africa, and that, of course, is the cat. As far as I'm aware, the Egyptians did that with the African wild cat, which is very closely related to the domestic moggy, of which my mother is so fond. And Viam is also very fond. He has a cat of his own. But there are no domestication programs that I'm aware of for wild dogs. So fear not, we're not about to grab one of these puppies while we're off air, take it home and see if we can make it tame. From what I understand, rescued puppies that, you know, if their packs are killed or whatever it is, you put them in captivity, as far as I'm aware, they don't immediately tame. They are confiding with human beings, but they don't like to stay in the same place, and they eventually will start to run. They start to roam. And you cannot contain them. Or it's very difficult to contain them and keep them happy at the same time. So although they'll show probably very little aggression to their handlers, it's very difficult to keep them anything other than depressed in a confined space. And of course that's very difficult for those who keep them in zoos. I've seen wild dogs in the Colorado Zoo, and I've seen them in the Johannesburg Zoo, and unfortunately, while that unquestionably is not ideal habitat for them, and I have no doubt that there are psychological scars borne by those dogs in zoos, because of our utter incapability as human beings not to destroy everywhere they live naturally. It's imperative that we keep them in zoos, because they are so endangered that one catastrophic disease coming through the Kruger National Park could wipe out a massive piece of the remaining population, and that could be catastrophic for the species. And so while it was deeply painful to see them, they run up and down their enclosures a lot, and that cannot be the best life for them, but it's absolutely essential. They're a repository of a genetic legacy that we out in the wild have been absolutely unable to maintain. And we continue to do that, of course, as a human species. We continue to destroy habitat for all of our animals. We continue to breed the planet into oblivion. John, the main threats to wild dogs, as with all animals and all pieces of nature, is human beings. We are the main threat to everything out here, with our ceaseless population growth, our ceaseless desire to live a first world lifestyle, and complete lack of ability to appreciate the consequences of such a lifestyle for that many people. And with that come our domestic dogs, which bring domestic diseases like canine distemper and rabies. Well, they're not domestic diseases, but they certainly are much worse in domestic situations. And these wild dogs, because we find it so difficult to contain them, get in amongst the domestic dogs, catch their diseases, and they really run riot through wild populations. In the wild, they're threatened by lions quite a lot. Lions kill a lot of wild dogs. But I'm afraid it's human beings that are largely responsible for their decline. Anyway, that feels a bit depressing, doesn't it? As opposed to feeling much more cheerful, because we're sitting here with wild dogs. Let's go across to somebody who's always cheerful. That is, of course, Taylor McAdee on her feet.
Most of the time I'm cheerful, except when I'm hangry. Good luck dealing with me. I have a question for all of you, because I can't think of what to talk about on Bushwalk now. So I thought, well, I'll just make you do all the hard work for me. Basically, what I'd like to know from all of you today is, what has been your highlight on this morning's safari? Because it's been an incredible safari. Obviously, we've had a lot of different things, but before we go into them, I would like to know from you. So hashtag SafariLive, or comment around the YouTube chat. What has been your favorite part about this morning's safari? We've just been so fortunate over the last couple of days. I mean, yesterday afternoon, the sighting that I had, so I saw an Inyala. Can you see the Inyala, Wiem? 12 o'clock. In the distance, there's just a big brown blob moving around. I thought it was maybe a buffalo. I just had to quickly check that with the binoculars. But there is an Inyala walking around out in the... Always got to have binoculars with you. So, now I forgot what I was talking about. I'm pulling a James now, and I've lost my train of thought. I think he said that this morning. I am becoming senile. That Louise has just called me senile. can I tell you a funny story? Okay, I'm going to digress completely now, and I'll wait till your answers come through. When I was on holiday, and I went to a theme park, because obviously I like to go on roller coasters. Don't like to do spinning things so much, because that makes me very nauseous. I have terrible motion sickness, and Brent still teases me about my deep sea fishing experience. So going around, anyways, there was one of the arcade games, and there was this lady, and she had a microphone, and she's telling everybody everything. Hey, everybody, come over, come and see this amazing thing, lights flashing, and all the kids ran over. She said something about a prize, so you can imagine the parents are like, oh no, I've got to pay more money to let the kids play. So it was a lion racing game. So basically there were a whole lot of lions lined up on this sort of, I suppose, a train track or something like that, and you had to roll balls into different holes, and each hole would be a certain number, and obviously the higher the number, the further your lion would move. So it was a lion race. So she's commentating like it's a horse race, and they go, number 6 is doing well, and number 5 is taking the lead, oh, that one was drawn wide, or what, I don't know, whatever they say. And these kids were going crazy, and then this woman, now she spots me, and she points at me, and she goes, you over there, mummy. She calls me mummy first. I'm like, I've just turned 26, firstly. Someone made a joke that I'm now in my late 20s and I almost had a heart attack. I was like, that's not funny. And this woman went, come, ma'am, if those are your kids over there. And she points. And I went, what? Those are your kids here, discount. Come, bring them in, let them join. And I just stood there and I went, not my children. I'm young, like I'm really young. I know there's some young moms around these days. I'm like, but no, not me. I was offended. And then as I carried on walking, I think a kid proceeded to say, Tani, which is auntie. And I just went, I'm done, I'm leaving. I'm going back home. I'm going to get into my dressing gown and I'm just going to sit on the couch and read a book or something. That was my ego bruised horribly from being called a mom, which is nothing wrong with that, of course. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but it was obviously my birthday was fairly recent, and then being called auntie afterwards. I mean, that was the end of me. I was so distraught. I mean, nothing could lift my mood. That was it. Very upsetting. I'm like, I'm just the same age as you. I'm like 10 years older than those kids that were there. But whatever. Apparently, I need to probably start applying more sunscreen. Maybe I need to hit the mud wallows a little bit more and add on the mask and tighten those pores, because apparently I'm aging. Which I find to be particularly funny. Anyways, so that's what happened to me on holiday. It was the first time anything like that has ever happened to me in my life, and it was a traumatic experience. I'm still recovering, as you can tell. So yeah, so now we're basically just going to walk back to camp, because I don't think we've got much time left. Breakfast game. Liam, what do you think you're having for breakfast?
Eggs and bacon.
Eggs and bacon. You've got to be a little bit more specific, because there's always eggs and bacon. Are they going to be scrambled eggs? They're going to be boiled. They won't be boiled because we had boiled eggs yesterday. Are they going to be poached? Ooh.
Normal ones.
Fried eggs. VM says we're going to have fried eggs and bacon. That's like stock standard. I'm hoping there's going to be mushrooms of sorts. That'll be nice. I still really want my lentils though. I don't know why I'm so ravenous and I just have this craving for lentils. Maybe I'm going to have to make that for dinner. That might be my dinner tonight. I'm going to have like a whole packet of lentils. I'm going to eat 7 bowls of it, and then I'll just never want to eat lentils ever again in my life. Maybe we're due for a breakfast wrap. Yes, breakfast wraps are good. The ones that Amanda bakes and then they're crispy on the outside. That could be good. That's what Louise's guessed. Amanda, if you can hear me, I would really like to do the poached eggs, asparagus, mushroom breakfast again. I know we had that a few days ago, but it's wonderful. Yeah, it's a bit slippery coming on down the slope. We always trip. I don't know how VM just did it backwards. If I did it backwards, I would have totally fallen over. So yeah. I'll post a picture on Twitter later in like an hour and a bit when we have brunch these days. We don't have breakfast anymore. We normally have breakfast, brunch at like 10 o'clock or so. But I also think I should probably eat healthy and have yogurts and fruits. But I told myself that yesterday, but whatever. I'm getting old now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. My life is over. It's done. being very dramatic. So we're walking across the Vuyatilla Dam wall now. I always feel like this is like a little bit of a runway. Anyways, I think we should go to James now, who's got the sleepy puppies. Their bellies are full, and I reckon James will look exactly like that straight after brunch.
Well, I hope that Taylor won't look like a wild dog after lunch or after brunch, but it's not impossible. One never knows. These little chaps continue to sleep and then do a little bit of sort of wandering about. So this is interesting. The one on the right, I think, is very clearly less dominant than the one on the left. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to this. I simply haven't spent enough time around these animals. But what I would say there is that the one doing the biting is the more dominant. But you can see that the hierarchy is not such that the interaction there is treated with fear by the less dominant one. And in fact, that less dominant one is making a sort of crying sound. Typical crying puppy sound. Quite possibly hungry, you know. Quite possibly didn't eat as much as the others because of his or her slightly lower rank. Actually might be able to tell you if it's a his or a her. That one, of course, has eaten plenty. Yeah, it's a young male, the one that wasn't quite so dominant. If you look behind its tail there, you can see the beginnings of its scrotum. But there are some very sleepy dogs here now. Here comes Fatty. Also a male is our Fatty, possibly going to be the alpha one day. Lauren, their ears are so big for the same reason that the big bad wolf's ears were so big. As you remember, what the big bad wolf said to Little Red Riding Hood? "Oh, grandmother, what huge ears you have!" And the big bad wolf said, everyone together, "All the better to hear you with, my dear." And so they have big ears like this because that is how they find each other. They listen. And they make loud calling noises when they get separated. And they get separated a lot when they go hunting. And those ears help them to find each other on the hunt. They look even more outlandishly sized when they're on youngsters. On adults, they don't look quite so big, but I mean, those ears are pretty much their adult size. This young male is not a sleeper. He likes to be up. What if he wants to come over here for a scratch? If you come over here, I'll scratch you behind your ears. Wouldn't that be nice? Just a little tickle. Come on. Come over here. Come on. It would be astounding if he got up and wandered over. He's looking at me and thinking, what an idiot. What a clown show. Right, Brent Leo Smith has managed to find yet more signal, if you can believe it, and he would like to do one more segment for you this morning before he heads off, probably to have a little picnic with himself.
Well, welcome back, and we've got two of the lionesses now. That is the oldest one. She's actually lying in the mitre drain that is made for the runoff of the water. The wildebeest are about 200 meters away, 150 to 200 meters away. So we're going to be sitting here for the day, hoping that they do hunt at some point. So it's time to get comfortable, have a cup of tea, and wait for the action to unfold. say, when you're out in the African bush, patience is your most most important skill you have out here. And James says, I hope I have a picnic this morning. I didn't pack our food this morning. Mr. Moriti did. So what do we have to eat? Biscuits and juice and tea. No tea. No tea. We've got biscuits, juice, and some and water. We're tough. We'll survive. Yeah, we'll survive. We'll eat when we get back to camp, I think. So we've just got a bunch of snacks for today. Kaka, next to you, right next to you. Sorry, I just thought I'd warn you in case you got a fright. Sorry, they didn't see the lions there, and I'm parked there to let a car pass. But fortunately, these Magoro lionesses are used to the vehicles, so they don't stress too much. That was quite funny. But yes, so the lionesses are there. The wildebeest is still there, so we are going to be here for the day. Sort of still grazing around that area, not really moving at the moment. I say as it gets warmer, there's water, and there is some water close by, so maybe they'll head down here for a drink. Alright, so while we continue to play the patience game, let's send you across to James, and I'm sure those absolutely adorable little wild dogs.
I'm very pleased to find out that Brent Leo Smith has his patience pants on yet again. Fantastic. He's worn them a lot of late. I'm now going to slap my face because there's a fly on it. Well, here comes the sun, finally, adding a bit of colour to the doggies, or lying in a little carpet. The adults are about 30 seconds away. The adults are about 30 meters away, 100 feet or so. They just cannot lie still for very long. And now as the sun comes out, they're going to seek shade. This is going to be quite hot. They're so sweet. Senzo's just saying that one there has got the best colours, he thinks. I agree, actually. The tanner they are, the more appealing they seem to be, and also those white legs are just fantastic. There's a bit of a dig. Lion make some nice cool soil to lie in, or just play. That's fantastic. All right, everyone, that's going to be the end of our drive this morning, or this evening for some of you in North America. We will see you this afternoon, of course, at 15:30 for the Kids Drive, Nat Geo Kids Drive, and then the normal drive after that. Until then, stay safe and happy. Bye-bye.